The Nowata Methodist Church is happy to produce a lot of different content for the edification of Christ's church throughout the world. This daily segment that you're listening to right now corresponds with the Daily Bible Reading Challenge, which is hosted by Christ Church in Moscow, Idaho. If you want to download the list of readings that they publish for yourself or learn more about this challenge, this initiative, go to biblereading.christkirk.com. I'm Jeffrey Rickman. I'm the pastor here in Nowata, and I read from the Berean Standard Bible, which you can also find at berean.bible. Consider subscribing to this podcast to be a part of this daily effort to grow in familiarity with and love of God's holy word. Let's dive in for today. Hey, I'm Jeffrey. I'm the preacher. I read scripture every day. If this is your first time with us, welcome. If this is your 43rd time with us, that's great. Good for you. We're going to begin today in Deuteronomy chapter 6. Let's attend upon God's word together. These are the commandments and statutes and ordinances that the Lord your God has instructed me to teach you to follow in the land that you are about to enter and possess, so that you and your children and grandchildren may fear the Lord your God all the days of your lives, by keeping all his statutes and commandments that I give you, and so that your days may be prolonged. Hear, O Israel, and be careful to observe them, so that you may prosper and multiply greatly in a land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has promised you. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. These are the words I am commanding you today, and they are to be put upon your hearts. And you shall teach them diligently to your children, and speak of them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as reminders on your hands, and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorposts of your houses and on your gates. And when the Lord your God brings you into the land he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that he would give you, a land with great and splendid cities that you did not build, with houses full of every good thing with which you did not fill them, with wells that you did not dig, and with vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant, and when you eat and are satisfied, be careful not to forget the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Fear the Lord your God, serve him only, and take your oaths in his name. Do not follow other gods, the gods of the peoples around you. For the Lord your God, who is among you, is a jealous God. Otherwise, the anger of the Lord your God will be kindled against you, and he will wipe you off the face of the earth. Do not test the Lord your God as you tested him at Massah. You are to diligently keep the commandments of the Lord your God and the testimonies and statutes he has given you. Do what is right and good in the sight of the Lord, so that it may be well with you, that you may enter and possess the good land that the Lord your God swore to give your fathers, driving out all your enemies before you, as the Lord has said. In the future, when your son asks, "What is the meaning of the decrees and statutes and ordinances that the Lord our God has commanded you?" then you are to tell him, "We were slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Before our eyes the Lord inflicted great and devastating signs and wonders on Egypt, on Pharaoh, and on all his household. But he brought us out from there to lead us in and give us the land that he had sworn to our fathers. And the Lord commanded us to observe all these statutes and to fear the Lord our God, that we may always be prosperous and preserved, as we are to this day. And if we are careful to observe every one of these commandments before the Lord our God, as he has commanded us, then that will be our righteousness." Deuteronomy chapter 7. When the Lord your God brings you into the land that you are entering to possess, And he drives out before you many nations, the Hittites, Girgashites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, 7 nations larger and stronger than you. And when the Lord your God has delivered them over to you to defeat them, then you must devote them to complete destruction. Make no treaty with them and show no mercy. Do not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons or take their daughters for your sons, because they will turn your sons away from following me to serve other gods. Then the anger of the Lord will burn against you, and he will swiftly destroy you. Instead, this is what you are to do to them. Tear down their altars, smash their sacred pillars, cut down their Asherah poles, and burn their idols in the fire. For you are a people holy to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you to be a people for his prized possession out of all the peoples on the face of the earth. The Lord did not set his affection on you and choose you because you were more numerous than other peoples, for you were the fewest of all peoples. But because the Lord loved you and kept the oath he swore to your fathers, he brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you from the house of slavery, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Know therefore that the Lord your God is God, the faithful God, who keeps his covenant of loving devotion for 1,000 generations of those who love him and keep his commandments. But those who hate him, he repays to their faces with destruction. He will not hesitate to repay to his face the one who hates him. So, keep the commandments and the statutes and ordinances that I am giving you to follow this day. If you listen to these ordinances and keep them carefully, then the Lord your God will keep his covenant and the loving devotion that he swore to your fathers. He will love you and bless you and multiply you. He will bless the fruit of your womb and the produce of your land, your grain, new wine and oil, the young of your herds and the lambs of your flocks, in the land that he swore to your fathers to give you. You will be blessed above all peoples. Among you there will be no barren man or woman or livestock. And the Lord will remove from you all sickness. He will not lay upon you any of the terrible diseases you knew in Egypt, but he will inflict them on all who hate you. You must destroy all the peoples the Lord your God will deliver to you. Do not look on them with pity. Do not worship their gods, for that will be a snare to you. You may say in your heart, "These nations are greater than we are. How can we drive them out?" But do not be afraid of them. Be sure to remember what the Lord your God did to Pharaoh and all Egypt. The great trials that you saw, the signs and wonders, the mighty hand and outstretched arm by which the Lord your God brought you out. The Lord your God will do the same to all the peoples you now fear. Moreover, the Lord your God will send the hornet against them until even the survivors hiding from you have perished. Do not be terrified by them, for the Lord your God who is among you is a great and awesome God. The Lord your God will drive out these nations before you little by little. You will not be enabled to eliminate them all at once, or the wild animals would multiply around you. But the Lord your God will give them over to you and throw them into great confusion until they are destroyed. He will hand their kings over to you, and you will wipe out their names from under heaven. No one will be able to stand against you. You will annihilate them. You must burn up the images of their gods. Do not covet the silver and gold that is on them, or take it for yourselves, or you will be ensnared by it, for it is detestable to the Lord your God. And you must not bring any detestable thing into your house, or you like it will be set apart for destruction. You are to utterly detest and abhor it, because it is set apart for destruction. Deuteronomy chapter 8. You must carefully follow every commandment I am giving you today, so that you may live and multiply and enter and possess the land that the Lord swore to give your fathers. Remember that these 40 years the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness, so that he might humble you and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commandments. He humbled you, and in your hunger he gave you manna to eat, which neither you nor your fathers had known, so that you might understand that man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. Your clothing did not wear out, and your feet did not swell during these 40 years. So know in your heart that just as a man disciplines his son, so the Lord your God disciplines you. Therefore you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God, walking in his ways and fearing him. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land of brooks and fountains and springs that flow through the valleys and hills, a land of wheat, barley, vines, fig trees, and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land where you will eat food without scarcity, where you will lack nothing, a land whose rocks are iron and whose hills are ready to be mined for copper. When you eat and are satisfied, you are to bless the Lord your God for the good land that he has given you. Be careful not to forget the Lord your God by failing to keep his commandments and ordinances and statutes which I am giving you this day. Otherwise, when you eat and are satisfied, when you build fine houses in which to dwell, and when your herds and flocks grow large, and your silver and gold increase, and all that you have is multiplied, then your heart will become proud, and you will forget the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. He led you through the vast and terrifying wilderness with its venomous snakes and scorpions, a thirsty and waterless land. He brought you water from the rock of flint. He fed you in the wilderness with manna that your fathers had not known, in order to humble you and test you, so that in the end he might cause you to prosper. You might say in your heart, "The power and strength of my hands have made this wealth for me." But remember that it is the Lord, your God, who gives you the power to gain wealth, in order to confirm his covenant that he swore to your fathers even to this day. If you ever forget the Lord your God and go after other gods to worship and bow down to them, I testify against you today that you will surely perish. Like the nations that the Lord has destroyed before you, so you will perish if you do not obey the Lord your God. Deuteronomy chapter 9. Hear, O Israel, today you are about to cross the Jordan to go in and dispossess nations greater and stronger than you, with large cities fortified to the heavens. The people are strong and tall, the descendants of the Anakim. You know about them, and you have heard it said, who can stand up to the sons of Anak. But understand that today the Lord your God goes across ahead of you as a consuming fire. He will destroy them and subdue them before you, and you will drive them out and annihilate them swiftly, as the Lord has promised you. When the Lord your God has driven them out before you, do not say in your heart, "Because of my righteousness the Lord has brought me in to possess the land." Rather, the Lord is driving out these nations before you because of their wickedness. It is not because of your righteousness or uprightness of heart that you are going in to possess their land, but it is because of their wickedness that the Lord your God is driving out these nations before you to keep the promise he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Understand then that it is not because of your righteousness that the Lord your God is giving you this good land to possess, for you are a stiff-necked people. Remember this and never forget how you provoked the Lord your God in the wilderness. From the day you left the land of Egypt until you reached this place, you have been rebelling against the Lord. At Horeb you provoked the Lord, and he was angry enough to destroy you. When I went up on the mountain to receive the tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant that the Lord made with you, I stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. I ate no bread and drank no water. Then the Lord gave me the 2 stone tablets inscribed by the finger of God with the exact words that the Lord spoke to you out of the fire on the mountain on the day of the assembly. Then the Lord gave me the 2 stone tablets inscribed by the finger of God with the exact words that the Lord spoke to you out of the fire on the mountain on the day of the assembly. And at the end of 40 days and 40 nights, the Lord gave me the 2 stone tablets, the tablets of the covenant. And the Lord said to me, "Get up and go down from here at once, for your people, whom you brought out of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. How quickly they have turned aside from the way I commanded them. They have made for themselves a molten image." The Lord also said to me, "I have seen this people, and they are indeed a stiff-necked people. Leave me alone so that I may destroy them and blot out their name from under heaven. Then I will make you into a nation mightier and greater than they are." So I went back down the mountain while it was blazing with fire, with the 2 stone tablets of the covenant in my hands. And I saw how you had sinned against the Lord your God. You had made for yourselves a molten calf. You had turned aside quickly from the way that the Lord had commanded you. So I took the 2 stone tablets and threw them out of my hands, shattering them before your eyes. Then I fell down before the Lord for 40 days and 40 nights, as I had done the first time. I did not eat bread or drink water because of all the sin you had committed in doing what was evil in the sight of the Lord and provoking him to anger. For I was afraid of the anger and wrath that the Lord had directed against you, enough to destroy you, but the Lord listened to me this time as well. The Lord was angry enough with Aaron to destroy him, but at that time I also prayed for Aaron. And I took that sinful thing, the calf you had made, and burned it in the fire. Then I crushed it and ground it to powder as fine as dust, and I cast it into the stream that came down from the mountain. You continued to provoke the Lord at Taberah, at Massa, and at Kibroth Hattaavah. And when the Lord sent you out from Kadesh Barnea, he said, "Go up and possess the land that I have given you." But you rebelled against the command of the Lord your God. You neither believed him nor obeyed him. You have been rebelling against the Lord since the day I came to know you. So I fell down before the Lord for 40 days and 40 nights, because the Lord had said he would destroy you. And I prayed to the Lord and said, "O Lord God, do not destroy your people, your inheritance, whom you redeemed through your greatness and brought out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Overlook the stubbornness of this people and the wickedness of their sin. Otherwise, those in the land from which you brought us out will say, because the Lord was not able to bring them out into the land that he had promised them, and because he hated them, he has brought them out to kill them in the wilderness. But they are your people, your inheritance, whom you brought out by your great power and outstretched arm." Deuteronomy chapter 10. At that time the Lord said to me, "Chisel out 2 stone tablets like the originals. Come up to me on the mountain and make an ark of wood. And I will write on the tablets the words that were on the first tablets which you broke, and you are to place them in the ark." So I made an ark of acacia wood, chiseled out 2 stone tablets like the originals, and went up the mountain with the 2 tablets in my hands. And the Lord wrote on the tablets what had been written previously, the 10 commandments that he had spoken to you on the mountain out of the fire on the day of the assembly. The Lord gave them to me. And I went back down the mountain and placed the tablets in the ark I had made, as the Lord had commanded me, and there they have remained. The Israelites traveled from Beeroth Benajaakan to Moserah, where Aaron died and was buried, and Eleazar his son succeeded him as priest. From there they traveled to Gudgodah, and from Gudgodah to Jotbatah, a land with streams of water. At that time the Lord set apart the tribe of Levi to carry the ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord to serve him, and to pronounce blessings in his name, as they do to this day. That is why Levi has no portion or inheritance among his brothers. The Lord is his inheritance, as the Lord your God promised him. I stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights like the first time, and that time the Lord again listened to me and agreed not to destroy you. Then the Lord said to me, "Get up, continue your journey ahead of the people, that they may enter and possess the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. And now, O Israel, what does the Lord your God ask of you but to fear the Lord your God by walking in all his ways, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and to keep the commandments and statutes of the Lord that I am giving you this day for your own good? Behold, to the Lord your God belong the heavens, even the highest heavens, and the earth, and everything in it. Yet the Lord has set his affection on your fathers and loved them, and he has chosen you, their descendants after them, above all the peoples, even to this day. Circumcise your hearts, therefore, and stiffen your necks no more. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great, mighty, and awesome God, showing no partiality and accepting no bribe. He executes justice for the fatherless and widow, and he loves the foreigner, giving him food and clothing. So you also must love the foreigner, since you yourselves were foreigners in the land of Egypt. You are to fear the Lord your God and serve him. Hold fast to him and take your oaths in his name. He is your praise and he is your God, who has done for you these great and awesome wonders that your eyes have seen. Your fathers went down to Egypt, 70 in all, and now the Lord your God has made you as numerous as the stars in the sky. Now to the New Testament, Mark chapter 8. In those days the crowd once again became very large, and they had nothing to eat. Jesus called the disciples to him and said, I have compassion for this crowd, because they have already been with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. If I send them home hungry, they will faint along the way, for some of them have come a great distance. His disciples replied, Where in this desolate place could anyone find enough bread to feed all these people? How many loaves do you have? Jesus asked. 7, they replied. And he instructed the crowd to sit down on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves, gave thanks and broke them, and gave them to his disciples to set before the people, and they distributed them to the crowd. They also had a few small fish, and Jesus blessed them and ordered that these be set before them as well. The people ate and were satisfied. And the disciples picked up 7 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over, and about 4,000 men were present. As soon as Jesus had dismissed the crowd, he got into the boat with his disciples and went to the district of Dalmanutha. Then the Pharisees came by and began to argue with Jesus, testing him by demanding from him a sign from heaven. Jesus sighed deeply in his spirit and said, Why does this generation demand a sign? Truly I tell you, no sign will be given to this generation. And he left them, got back into the boat, and crossed to the other side. Now the disciples had forgotten to take bread, except for 1 loaf they had with them in the boat. Watch out, he cautioned them. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of Herod. So they began to discuss with one another the fact that they had no bread. Aware of their conversation, Jesus asked them, Why are you debating about having no bread? Do you still not see or understand? Do you have such hard hearts? Having eyes, do you not see? And having ears, do you not hear? And do you not remember? When I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many basketfuls of broken pieces did you collect? 12, they answered. And when I broke the 7 loaves for the 4,000, how many basketfuls of broken pieces did you collect? 7, they said. Then he asked them, Do you still not understand? When they arrived at Bethsaida, some people brought a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. So he took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the village. Then he spit on the man's eyes and placed his hands on him. Can you see anything? He asked. The man looked up and said, I can see the people, but they look like trees walking around. Once again, Jesus placed his hands on the man's eyes, and when he opened them, his sight was restored, and he could see everything clearly. Jesus sent him home and said, Do not go back into the village. Then Jesus and his disciples went on to the villages around Caesarea Philippi. On the way, he questioned his disciples, Who do people say I am? They replied, Some say John the Baptist, Others say Elijah, and still others, one of the prophets. But what about you? Jesus asked. Who do you say I am? Peter answered, You are the Christ. And Jesus warned them not to tell anyone about him. Then he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, chief priests, and scribes, and that he must be killed after 3 days, and after 3 days rise again. He spoke this message quite frankly, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But Jesus, turning and looking at his disciples, rebuked Peter and said, Get behind me, Satan, for you do not have in mind the things of God, but the things of men. Then Jesus called the crowd to him along with his disciples, and he told them, If anyone wants to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake and for the gospel will save it. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world yet forfeit his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will also be ashamed of him when he comes in his Father's glory with the holy angels. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. All right, Deuteronomy continues to be a good recapitulation of stuff that we've read in Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers. It's also weaving things together very helpfully, I think. And then the Gospel of Mark, of course, we are reviewing a lot of stuff. It's hard to remember what we've read in this and then what we've done in worship lately because I'm preaching through the Gospel of Matthew. So lots of good overlap. It's good to weave all these things together. I hope you're doing that. All right, that'll conclude us for today, and I'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. God bless you.